interesting how fresh it feels and how close under the surface it really is. You know, the pain is, or the feeling is, that you think, oh, that happened a long time ago. I've been working through it. I've been forgiving. You know, I've done my own work. And then you just can't even get the words out because the pain comes right up.
That's a good realization, isn't it?
So maybe there's some more forgiveness to be had.
That's what it means. We'll discover, hopefully we'll discover what's holding it in there. The way I see it, from a teacher's perspective, I see it resentment like a nut on a screw. For some people it's tighter than others. And so you may have unscrewed it a little bit, but it's still there. And at a certain point, it just will have its own momentum. So it's probably down a bit. It's a little more unscrewed.
Because my thought too is I've been in groups where we can process work similar to this, and I've worked on this thing. And so I'm like, what? Like, why does it still feel like just as fresh, you know?
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, you do one, I had this one night in this group, and it was amazing, and, you know, we did kind of the same similar deal, and crying. After that, I thought, oh wow, okay, good, that's done, you know? And then I come here today, and it's like,
so a few other things we need to do. This is just the beginning. This is just loosening the screw. You loosened it, but you didn't take it off. And it has a tendency to wind itself up again the other way. But this exercise is important, I think, for many people, because like you said, you connect with what's there that you may not have thought was there. Yeah, you want to hear an interesting thing for me? I did a workshop, and it was it dug up, I don't know how it happened because they weren't conscious exercises. We did exercises that dug up emotions. And emotions came out that I had no idea were there at all, not even at all. And then I went back to it and I said, oh yes, this person used to tell me this, and I used to think, that's stupid, that's crazy, but it actually got in. And it had an effect. Very interesting. What's in there spinning around? Anybody else have anything you want to share?
I thought I would have been crying, but I didn't, and I couldn't, and I didn't want to.
Because?
Because of anger, I guess.
Oh, you're more angry. But you realize you were more angry than you thought? That's interesting.
Is it okay to experience that?
Yeah. She's trying to progress spiritually, so naturally that's a natural question. Because look at spiritual life, anger is a big obstacle. But it's there. So you can't pretend it's not there. It'll go away, you work through it.
I also think anger is more socially acceptable and also a more familiar feeling because it feels easier to get angry than to get hurt, than to feel sad. It's easier to be angry and project, than go, I'm feeling sad. It's easier to be angry at that person, and because it's external.
Exactly. Like we read that quote, if you stop hating, you'll have to deal with the pain. As long as you hate, it'll cover it.
Maybe the pain was really big. It's like the idea of, feeling pain for that, or that, is just seems, it's so daunting. I mean, I know for myself it's felt like that.
Yeah, exactly. You got something?
It seems like it was hard for me to pin anger on one person, but it felt more like sadness about a way of being in general or something.
Yeah.
And but I was able to feel that, and I was just noticing how it seemed like you were talking before about melting. That it's like this whole progression that kind of brings you back to actually there's originally a loving feeling.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Messed up.
It's under there. It's definitely under there. Anger is just It's an excavation. Under the anger, there's other things that are higher. And anger is a secondary emotion, not the first. So under the anger, there's something, like you said, disappointment.
So is that true of all, like grief? I can understand they say that grief is just love. The loving feeling is what got stuck.
Yeah.
So is that true for all emotions?
What I've come to understand is that every form of anger, resentment, if you go down deep enough, it's a desire to be loved that was unmet. And it'll come as betrayal, become as distrust, it'll become some emotion, but you keep going. Desire to be appreciated, accepted, loved, and it wasn't met when we expected it. And so when we get angry, we just have to uncover it. There's something that caused it. That's another emotion causes anger. Why can't you understand when I get angry? Because I want to be understood. And you're misunderstanding. Why can't you just accept me? This is how I am. Just accept me that way. And I get angry because you don't accept me. So underneath there's something. You need to be accepted, understood. You said you'd be back at 6, you came back at 6:30. Betrayal. So we're going to discover that more. But if you go down, lower, lower, you will find the desire to be loved. But even if you go further, you'll find the desire to give affection behind all that. I mean, why do you get angry at your children? Because you love them.
Interesting, just if an event happened yesterday that triggered what I was working on today, so I needed some more serendipitous, because if that hadn't happened, I would have been focusing on something completely different. Because my issue that I was working on was my mom moving when I was in high school, which just caused a whole other chain of events to happen in my life. And my husband's ex-wife now has a 15-year-old daughter. She's the same age that I was when my mom was, and she's now. So yesterday, it had me mad, you know?
Trigger,
Mad at her, right? And so
that's a whole, yeah.
it was nice that that happened though, because I realized that I really needed to still do this.
It's a very good example. That's why forgiveness is so important, because it's messing up what's going on today. Distrust because of someone who betrayed us, and the person is trustworthy. There was a story of, a lot of stories like that, where people can't get along because of past events. One man wrote a book, I forget the name of it. It was applying forgiveness in the corporate world. And he said, in the corporate world, every conflict happened years and years ago, way before they got there. And it's just now manifesting with all the issues of the past. And they're just triggers that are in the present, that are triggering events of the past. So when you clean out the events of the past, people will get along. It's not really the conflict present. That's why forgiveness is very powerful, or healing any wound is powerful. But then it makes it easier for you to get along and to be gotten along with, which is a good tool when you live with somebody, or you want to live with somebody, or you work closely with people. Okay. What you're going to do now, in this workshop, we're going to ask you to write your story down briefly, whatever it is you're trying to forgive. It doesn't have to have the emotion. It just has to just be a few sentences. And then during the workshop, if a feeling comes over you like you would just like to give this up and not take it with you, we have here a bag of fire. And the reason we have a bag of fire is that I don't know if you've ever seen a ceremony in India. Have they ever seen a ceremony in India? We do what are called fire yajnas. The fire is made, and the fire represents the mouth of God, and things are offered into it. At a wedding ceremony, there's a fire. At an initiation, when a person accepts a group, there's a fire. It's done for purification. So they put grains in the fire, they put ghee, clarified butter in the fire, and at the end they put bananas. So this is our fire. And this piece of paper that you have, you want to write your story on a separate piece of paper. And any time during the seminar you get inspired, you can just come, tear your paper up, and put it in the fire, and then we have a little bowl, we're going to burn them outside. So the idea is that you are dealing with your story, you don't want to bring it with you any longer, you don't want to take it home, you just want to offer it to the fire. You don't have to do this, you can offer it later. But if you feel so inspired at any time, and then we'll celebrate. I could be talking, it could be the middle, like the exercise, we could just get up and do it. But when we do it, we should celebrate, because for some of you it's going to be a huge thing. It could be something you've been carrying for many, many years. So we should celebrate. How should we celebrate? Any ideas? Eat a piece of cake every time they do it. Give them a hug, cheer, whatever. Something. But it shouldn't go unnoticed, because it's important. What? So then 10 hugs or something. 10 hugs at once, carry them around the room.
So I was reading that forgiveness is giving up all hope for a better past. So what if, like in your situation, maybe, like, for example, you feel better that this has happened to you because you have become a better person because of it, but maybe the anger is still there because of other people going through the same situation and you know the suffering they're experiencing. So how do you...
process that?
Yeah.
That's a good question. She's saying, okay, I've learned from the past, but other people are now suffering. So the resentment you're feeling now is more because of the pain other people are going through, more than your own pain because you've grown from it. Then I would say it's the same process, applied perhaps from another perspective. And if you truly forgive, it's more challenging because you may feel their pain more than your own, and you want it to stop. Sometimes in those cases you may want to do something proactive that may help relieve. But if you can do something to prevent it. See, it's interesting because you can forgive somebody, but you can be acting in a way that looks like you haven't forgiven them. So that, but really your forgiveness has come to or your anger has now been purified. So your anger is no longer full of resentment, it's full of goodness to improve the situation. So that's where you want to come to. You want to come to it like women against drunk drivers. They were angry. So what did they do with their anger? They created an organization to prevent drunk driving as far as they could. So they used their anger for something that's uplifting. So anger isn't bad if it can be uplifting, then it uplifts you. So sometimes the anger is there, but it's not resentment. It's for help. It's for a higher cause. And so then sometimes you just need to do that to purify yourself. You have to. In other examples, it's for protection, your own or others. You have to do something. Perhaps a man is dangerous, and he needs to be restrained because he's going to be dangerous to other people. And you've forgiven him, but you go to court to make sure he goes to jail, gets prosecuted. And there's no enmity. You're doing it simply because it's going to be the best thing for him and other people. So it's kind of, it's a little awkward for us because we don't always operate that way, where I'm totally forgiven, and now I'm in the courtroom prosecuting this person and telling him I have no resentment. And he won't understand. Why are you doing it? Because you're dangerous to me and to other people. And I care for you, I love you, and that's why I want you behind bars so you don't damage anyone else. So it's the art of being practical and being spiritual and doing what's necessary to help the most people. Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita was asked to kill. He said, kill him. How's that spiritual? But he was a military man. That was his job. And he was protecting people by killing. He didn't want to do it. He didn't think it was spiritual. It was a dilemma. And there was a kind of detachment he had to come to from his sense of right and wrong, and to see that there was a higher purpose and duty. And very interesting story. I don't know if you've studied Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata, but the Bhagavad Gita, it's a battle, and Arjuna goes into the middle of the battlefield before it begins. And in those days, battles were like sports events. They had rules. They started and ended at a certain time. And there were rules. You and drop bombs at them. It was during the day, face to face. So Arjun's dilemma was a lot of his relatives ended up on the other side. It was a fratricidal war. And even his teachers were on the other side. So he saw his teachers, and Krishna was driving his chariot. He said, Krishna, I can't kill him, it's my teacher. He said, let's go talk to him. They drove the chariot to one of his teachers, and the teacher said, no, I want to be killed by you. Because I see you as a representative of Krishna, and this is my desire. It's a complicated situation. I have to explain more. But he actually had a desire. He was a warrior. He wanted to be killed not by anybody, but by Krishna. So Arjuna heard that, and he got a bigger picture. He understood, oh, there's more going on than I see, and Krishna's asking me to fight, and there's more ramifications than I could even understand that will benefit people. Because if I don't fight, the other side is going to rule, and that's going to ruin the world. So, he didn't want to do it, and Krishna said, no, what they're doing is unjust, and we should be angry at them. He said, no, but I don't want to do it. Let them kill me. He said, no, this is wrong. He said, you should be angry at injustice, and you should fight for justice. So he talked to him, and my spiritual master said he instructed him to make him angry, because he was too detached. He was giving up his duty. It's like somebody comes to your house and is disrupting everything, stealing, and your father's there going, whatever. You'd be like, do something. He's going to get rid of this guy. He's crazy. So it was like that. So, does that make sense? It's an important lesson. There's a benevolent kind of anger, but it doesn't come from the same place. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says there are 3 modes of nature. It's called tamagun, rajagun, and sattvagun. And it means ignorance, passion, and goodness. And it said that all activities and all thoughts are generated from one of these 3 states of consciousness. And ignorance is the lowest. And in ignorance you get hatred, you get anger, envy, and a kind of madness and unproductivity, and extreme laziness and procrastination. And in passion you get like the achievement mode. Just, get more and more success. Success that drives you to have more in a bad way. You get it somehow or other. And goodness, what's generated from goodness is higher conscious activity. So you could have anger and goodness, but it won't have the same effect on you. And it won't have the same effect on others. It'll like one time, my spiritual master, he chastised the disciple. And then the disciple left, and another disciple was there, and he said, what should we think when you're chastising us or another? He said, you should think you're very fortunate that your spiritual master was taking the time to correct you. And he was shaking. The spiritual master was very upset. He seemed upset. What happened was, after he chastised that disciple, he left, and then shift. It's like nothing happened. If you came in the room, you'd have no idea that he was there. He wasn't to instruct. And he said that the spiritual master has a duty to correct the disciple. That's his function. But he doesn't want to do it. In fact, it said that if you're practicing spiritual life, you can't be a spiritual master because you have to criticize. And if you're on a spiritual path, you should not criticize. So you can't actually be a guru. Isn't that interesting? It's antithetical to being a guru, to criticize. So my spiritual master said, the spiritual master, he takes the position as a servant of the disciple, and he corrects him in that mood. And he feels this is a thankless task that I have to correct. So the disciple should feel that affection. And so sometimes the spiritual master will appear to be mad because he knows that if he does it, the disciple won't take it seriously. He gives the instruction, the disciple leaves, and then the spiritual master is completely calm. He's completely controlled. I've had that experience with people. Sometimes I was very nice to them and they didn't understand. And I just had to say, it's either this or this. Then they understood. I had to do that. I wasn't angry. But it's interesting, isn't it? You have to become a guru. You have to criticize. And spiritualists don't criticize. They only see the good in others. but you're in a mood of a helper, and you see this will help this person. So the consciousness is help. It looks like anger, but the consciousness is help. So it's the consciousness behind. That's what's important. So Sat Lagoon, it's a higher place. It's called goodness. Sattva, we say sattvic. Like vegetarian food is sattvic. It's goodness. Healthy food is sattvic food. It's too spicy. It's rajasic. Too weighty. And it makes you passionate. And like liquor is ignorance. It makes you act ignorant. Early morning is considered sattvic time. How do you feel early in the morning? You feel sattvic. How do you feel at 6 in the afternoon? Rush hour or passion? You ever notice? You could see the most change because around 7:30 or 8 o'clock it goes from goodness to passion. You just feel, if you're meditating on anything, your mind's like, whoa, things are moving now. And then the day starts, everybody gets up. So when you're up early in the morning, you can feel this sattvic. It's very easy to meditate. And I'll tell you a funny story. I grew up in California, so we used to surf, and surfing is better in the morning because it's less windy. The wind runs the surf. So we get up early. We're like 15, 16. We get up early to go surfing, which normally we wouldn't get up early. So I had one really crazy, wild friend. There were like 4 of us in the van. We were leaving at 6 in the morning. So we're like 16, just like wild 16, crazy rock and roll surfers. And he turns on the radio, plays the rock and roll, and everyone in the band said, turn it off, it's too early. So even us crazy kids understood, It's just like the sattvic time. You can't listen to rock and roll at 6 in the morning, unless you've been up all night.
That's why I never understood when I see people smoking in the morning. Oh, God, it's awful.
When they're smoking, tell them to do pranayama. Put the cigarette down. The pranayama cigarette, there's nothing in them. So we want you to write your story on a second piece of paper, and then you'll tear that paper out. And just make it briefly. It's just more symbolic. It doesn't have to be the detail. This is what happened. A few sentences.